Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez is the youngest member of Congress. She turned 30 just a couple of weeks ago. She's barely old enough to rent a car. And yet already she's one of the most powerful politicians in America. 18 months ago, nobody in Washington had heard of the Green New Deal. Today, it's at the very center of the Democratic agenda. Ocasio-Cortez did that. So there's a reason she's famous. It's not just hype. She's impressive in a lot of ways. And even if you disagree with her, you ought to admit that. She's legitimately tough, for one thing. Strength is a prerequisite for success in politics, as in life. Ocasio-Cortez is. She's one of the only Democrats in the House who's totally unintimidated by Nancy Pelosi. When she got to Washington, party bosses tried to make her moderate her views for public consumption, but she refused. Unlike most members of Congress, Ocasio-Cortez actually believes most of what she says. She understands that something profound has gone wrong in America. The country is dangerously unequal. Fixing that will require going to war with the entrenched establishment, which is currently profiting from the status quo. Ocasio-Cortez is happy to do that. When Amazon decided to demand subsidies in order to come to New York, she was one of the very few who asked why we would send tax dollars to the world's richest man. When all the fashionable people in her party decided that Elizabeth Warren should be the nominee, Ocasio-Cortez endorsed Bernie. She's an independent spirit, one of the very few in Washington, and it's easy to see why young people listen to her. And in the end, that is the problem with Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. It's not her economic views, the ones that get all the attention. Yes, she's a wild-eyed left-winger who's pushing socialism on the country. Her ideas may be stupid and wrong. We think they are. But they're still, undeniably, ideas. You can debate them. We often do. The problem is the rest of what she says. There's a darker side to Ocasio-Cortez, and it has nothing to do with the Green New Deal. She's an unapologetic bigot, someone who attacks others for the way they were born. There's nothing legitimate about that. You can't debate bigotry. It's pure poison. It's terrifying to think that someone who spews open racism has become a role model for our young people, but that is exactly what has happened. And it's been happening since Ocasio-Cortez arrived on the public stage. During her first run for Congress last year, Ocasio-Cortez suggested that the incumbent who held the seat didn't deserve to be in Congress because he was the wrong race. By election day, her opponent was literally apologizing for his own skin color. When he accused Ocasio-Cortez of making the election about race, she didn't run from it. Quote, "It is about race," end quote. Not so long ago, a campaign like that would have been considered deeply immoral. The press would have hounded Ocasio-Cortez until she apologized or dropped out, but not anymore. A ruling class no longer recognizes universal standards of any kind. Racism, they've decided, cuts only one way. So they ignored Ocasio-Cortez's race baiting, and she got elected. Over time, like any untreated virus, her bigotry grew more inflamed. Here was Ocasio-Cortez just last week in a public hearing explaining that actually global climate change is the fault of a specific racial group. Watch.
Do we see largely that it's the global South and communities of color that may be bearing the brunt of the initial havoc from climate change?
Without a doubt. Without a doubt.
And in terms of that wealth, the people who are producing climate change, the folks that are responsible for the largest amount of emissions or communities or corporations, they tend to be predominantly white, correct?
Yes, and every study backs that up.
The people that are producing climate change, end quote. That's right. Those people, the ones destroying the earth, driving entire species to extinction, killing children. Ever notice how all those people look alike? They've got something in common, don't they? That's right. They're the same color. That's what she's saying. Standards have changed so much that it's hard to say something genuinely shocking in this country anymore. But that qualifies. For all the hysteria that you hear about how the president is a racist, Donald Trump has never said anything close to that. Nothing close to as bigoted and vicious as that. The people wrecking the world are all of one race? Who talks like that? In fact, it's hard to think of anyone in American life saying anything that disgusting and foolish and dangerous. If so, exactly what would it be? And yet, and here's the amazing part, nobody seemed to even notice when Ocasio-Cortez said that in the middle of a congressional hearing. Our rulers acted like it was all totally normal, because increasingly for them, it is normal. This is an ominous development for this country. Talk like this will destroy us. It has come close before, as you know. It's possible that Ocasio-Cortez doesn't really know what she's saying. You'd like to think that she doesn't. Maybe she's just young and lacking wisdom and can't hear herself. The problem is that others can hear her clearly. Every time she encourages her followers to hate and distrust other people based on their race, some of them will. And over time, this is how countries fall apart. So going forward, here's a plea to Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. Keep saying what you think is true. Keep taking jabs at the establishment in Washington. Even those of us who disagree with you will cheer you on. But my gosh, please, for the sake of the country and the children you don't yet have, please stop attacking people for the color of their skin. They can't change who they are, and neither can you. We all have to live here together anyway, and we won't be able to if you keep this up.